Hey everybody, this is Kevin for another episode of Lazy Literature. In my past episode, I recommended that everybody take a read over The Undying by Anne Boyer, and then also The Topeka School by Ben Lerner. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the book Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson, but I'm not going to recommend that you read it. The reason that I'm not going to recommend people read this book is that I think we are a little past its time. I think it's an important book for when it came out, but after I read it, I thought it was just kind of boring and it's over 500 pages long. So it went on for quite a while and I didn't really feel like I got anything valuable from it when I was done reading it. When I was reading Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson, I was thinking a lot about The Matrix and then also the movie Idiocracy. I think if you've seen either of these movies, you pretty much understand everything that goes on in Snow Crash. The reason I say this is that in Snow Crash, the book, the plot revolves around our protagonist, whose name is Hero Protagonist, as he tries to understand this computer virus that is just wrecking people and then also the internet. The setting for the book is like some type of America in the future where everything is divided up by corporations and superhighways and business chains. In that sense, that's why I thought it was close to idiocracy. Everything is about corporations, and we, as the people or consumers, the satire of the writing and the movie Idiocracy as it relates to Snow Crash is that we're idiots, we're stupid for going along with this. And it's like we have these destructive big corporations that steal our souls, but they give us fast food really fast and it makes us happy. And Snow Crash, everything revolves around like deliveries. So another main character is YT, and she's a courier. So she just kind of rides around on her very cool, hip, technologically advanced skateboard, and she delivers packages. She runs errands for different people, private customers, but then also these big corporate entities, one of which is the mafia, and it's kind of weird. The mafia and their corporate brand is heavily represented through a pizza chain, and then they have these pizza delivery drivers, and it's in the future, so these futuristic pizza deliveries are done by high-tech cars, and with this pizza delivery chain, they give you a 30-minute guarantee, and because of their technology, they can track that down to the nanosecond, and the drivers are able to zip zap and zoom around on these highways. And you spend a lot of time reading about that type of stuff. Eventually, the book makes things more complex, at least it tries to, by exploring this virus crisis as it affects the metaverse in the novel. The metaverse in Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson is where it gets pretty similar to the Matrix. It's like the idea of booting up or logging into the internet, and you have an avatar and you can represent yourself based on how good you are as a coder, and it's a big communal common space for people to interact with one another in. But of course, depending on your coding, there's a different hierarchy of what you're able to do. And our protagonist, he spends a lot of the time in the metaverse coding, talking about computer coding and the different implications of it, and then also slicing some people up with samurai swords, going on adventures, and overall, his quest or his narrative arc is centered around finding the origins of this virus and how to defeat it. And that's where the whole snow crash thing comes into play. The virus is called Snow Crash, and it's messing people up. And the book came out in 1992, and if I'd been reading this in 1992, I was born in 1993, by the way. Back in 1992, I probably would have thought this book was groundbreaking. And from what I've read in the reviews and criticisms of the book, it was pretty groundbreaking when it came out in the early 90s. But now reading it in 2020, I'm wondering if at 27, just from what I've lived through and the technological advances that I was just born into, maybe they make me a little less receptive to this book because I just take everything for granted. Like, I've seen Idiocracy, I've seen The Matrix. I keep hammering those two movies, but I really feel like if you haven't seen either of those two movies, instead of reading Snow Crash, you should sit down and watch those movies. Or if you have seen Idiocracy and any of the Matrix movies, you don't need to read Snow Crash because you already understand it. I'm not going to go on for too much longer in this video. I don't recommend reading Snow Crash. I feel like you can easily watch a 2 or 3 hour movie, both of which are pretty good, and fully understand what the novel is trying to tell you. But if you really want to read the novel, it's an easy read. It's a little over 500 pages long, but I say save yourself some time and maybe do something else, like some gardening, or I might repaint my kitchen, something like that. Next week, in the next episode, I'm going to be taking a look at Our Man. It's a biography of George Holbrook, and I really like it so far. It's by George Packer. Excuse me, it's not George Holbrook, it's Richard Holbrooke. It's Our Man, Richard Holbrooke, and the End of the American Century by George Packer. I think I got that right. If I didn't, let me know. Regardless, I'm going to talk about Richard Holbrooke and George Packer in my next episode. Have a good day, everybody.